Hello, everyone. Welcome to ExpertEase Networking. It's our weekly gathering where we meet, we connect, we share ideas, and we grow together as experts and human beings, to be honest. So each week we meet with a new theme. And this isn't, I'm just specifying for people who are coming here for the first time. So this isn't your typical networking session, like where you go and just gather a maximum of contact details. We come here and we discuss topics. And today's session is going to be facilitated by Hanan, a self-esteem and intuition coach. She's a cornerstone member of our community here at ExpertEase, and Hanan has a powerful message that she wants to share with us today. Her session entitled Reclaiming Your Power and Resetting Your Compass. Hanan, the floor is yours, my dear.
Thank you, Safa, and welcome to all. Good morning and good evening. Today, or for new people, for newcomers, I'd like to shortly introduce myself. My name is Czech, Palestinian. And today we will be and it's about the question of the questions, which is, who am I and why am I here on this planet? So I'd like to request you to listen with your heart and to be less logical. The topic will be deep, emotional. It might be triggering. It will invite you to get out from your comfort, and it will call your bravery. My intention is to heal together, grow together, and make a change together. I'd like to share some, because sometimes pictures empower. So a few years ago, my mother-in-law passed away, and I was very sad because I didn't have the chance to meet her in person because she lived in Syria. And my sister-in-law, who is a close friend of mine and who is a coach as well, she told me, Hanan, life is like a room. You enter this room from door A, you live your life, and then you exit from door B. So this room is your life on this planet. So who am I truly, and why am I living here on this planet? Is there a higher cause for being here? Like, are we here for joy, responsibility? Is there a purpose for being here? Am I here as an individual or in a collective? And what does all these things mean? If I'm not asking, then it's like being on a ship on a very long journey without knowing who is the captain of the ship and without knowing where the ship is heading. So before we go further, what if we go into breakout rooms and explore a little bit on this topic? Safa, if you can make it 3 minutes per each person.
And what is the question, Hanan?
The question is to explore. If we thought about these questions, if there is a higher cause of being here, what is like the reason, or what is, if it is responsibility or joy, what is it? Just explore and let your intuition speak, not logical thinking.
And then also, what is my calling on earth? What must I give back? And finding integration. The Japanese mean once you have harmony between your four, let's say, zones, then you live your ikigai. You are content. So that is quite a nice one for me. Another one, I think I must introduce you to Natasha. She does, I'm doing a 12-week course with her, speaking about the eagle and the condor in terms of the mind and the heart. And she facilitates a 12-week course on how the mind and the heart must get closer together and become more humane.
Beautiful. Anyone else would like to share their experience in the breakout room?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I'm Morris the Connector, now connected to my inner self, heart, mind, and body and soul. Just like the King just said, you know, we have to go through the pain to gain knowledge and wisdom. Every test became my testimony, and we shared in the room from different perspectives, but it all comes with love, because that's the highest frequency. With love, there's no hate. We just elevate to speculate, to relate, to associate, and then collaborate. And love is a oneness, you know, that's within us, but we have to grow to know and take time out to find out at times in that pain to realize and visualize ourselves as super beings and doing what we need to do in this world, which is share with our love. Yeah, so we got that in our room from different perspectives, talking about that. It was the oneness that came together in that room. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Morris. I like what you said because it's the core of everything. Okay, I'll go further. I'd like to share with you my story with a life-changing question that I heard more than 10 years ago. I worked for big tech corporation in sales. Usually, I mostly worked in sales for more than 17 years in corporations. So this was one of them, and I was attending solution selling training. And honestly, I don't remember anything from that solution selling training except one question that the trainer asked. And actually, this question comes to my mind in crucial times. And one of those times was my decision to resign from another job 6 years later, or yeah, something like that. So I'd like to share with you that question. It was, on your deathbed, what are the things that you will be proud that you did or you chose not to do? And what are the things that you will be sad or ashamed that you did or you did not do? So, what if we are not living the life that we want to live? And we are living a life that we were told to live. We usually are chasing things that I wrote, whatever came to my mind: longevity, health, abundance, financial security, freedom, humanity, happiness. And there is the oneness that Morris was mentioning. It's something that is very cool and trendy today, right? We all are talking about it. But what if it's not the life that we want to live? And if we are not thinking about this, or why aren't we thinking about this? It is comfort, right? We are in autopilot, and only if we get out from our comfort zone, we can start finding out. And I will share with you another story, a recent story that happened 2 days ago when I was in the supermarket with my husband. And he grabbed a well-known chewing gum from a well-known corporation. And I told him, dear, do you know that this is made from plastic? And he said, yeah, I know. And I told him, and do you know that I found a natural-based alternative? He said, yes, I know, but I'm already used to this one. It tastes better, so I'm gonna buy it. And actually, it's not about my husband. I believe that all of us do such things. Sometimes it looks small, sometimes it's big, like, for example, people who are using drugs, they know that it's harmful. So all of us, in a way or another, we are doing things that we know that they aren't ours. And it might be from conditioning, right? Conditioning is the process of behaviors, thoughts, and feelings are shaped or influenced by repeated experiences or environment, culture, or systems. And it affects all fields of our lives. Let me share again so that you can see it. It affects the social, political, economic, cultural, educational, informational, psychological, emotional, and spiritual aspects of our lives. Everything, the conditioning. And all of these things are interconnected. So we can't say, for example, that social aspect is a stand-apart thing, that it's not linked to the education, it's not linked to our culture, it's not linked to politics. Everything is interconnected. However, the system that we live in taught us to compartmentalize. I love this word. I always need to learn how to say it. To compartmentalize everything. We are conditioned to believe that everything is separate from other thing. And I used to catch myself saying, oh, this is something else. Let's stay with this topic. Let's stick with this topic. It's about something else. But today I realized that everything is interconnected. And I was wondering, why is this happening? How come is this happening? And I started to attend lectures with Czech philosopher, and this is another word that I need to read, phenomenologist, which is a person who is talking about the inner experience. And she is really, really good. She is true. She's real. She's in her 70s and she lost her son. And one of her quotes that I realized that they are really important. She said that we already carry the answers. We carry the answers within us. We just need to learn how to ask the right questions. So instead of or if I want to give an example, for example, our health condition, it's an answer. It's an answer, and we need to ask questions. Why my health condition is this way? Our financial situation, it's an answer to something. And we need to ask the right questions, not any questions, the right questions. Safa, you have a question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if we're disconnected from our intuition because we're also disconnected of nature. And most of us today live in large cities, in urban areas. We spend our days in front of a computer. We barely go to any, we don't have that direct contact with nature. So that contributes to being disconnected with the world and the universe and nature in general.
Yes. So that's why I'm talking about those questions, because we were taught that, or we are actually living as everything is 1 + 1 = 2, everything is very logical, but we have a soul, and the soul is the sacred gift, and we are really disconnected. We are today working on being connected again with nature, because nature is it is kind of spirituality. And when I touch trees, I feel it. When I talk to trees, they always tell me about a lot of things. Here in the Czech Republic, they tell me, hey, please don't do this in my name. The nature is, or even animals, I can learn from my cat. I can see how my cat is connected, how she lives the moment. I learned living the moment with my cat. So yeah, the more we connect with animals and with the nature, with plants, we are then more capable to listen to our soul, because our soul talks to us. So we can learn how to hear our soul and then to listen to it. Okay, so what I wanted to say is, let's assume that we are not asking the right questions, and we are conditioned politically, socially, and blah, 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 everything. And we are accepting the answers that are given. For example, our health condition, our financial situation. And we believe that we can't change it. In that case, we reached to the and now I will try to share. We reached to the world that we are living now. Okay. This world. I will go back to that assumption. If I have the answer that I can't do anything, then I'm closing the door for the questions. If I'm conditioned, I'm not asking. If I believe that I can't change the planet, then I accept the way we are living. And that's exactly how those greedy came to power. How come that someone can play with the whole world? For example, the quote that Trump said yesterday, that a whole civilization will be killed in one day. How come that such a person can have such a huge power? He has one brain, as we do have. He has one soul. He doesn't have multiple souls. He has the same number of limbs. as we do have. How come those in power convinced us that they are the powerful and we don't have the power? That this is the world. Wars always took place. History repeats itself. So basically, it's the consent that is manufactured. Yesterday, I watched a documentary about this consent with Noam Chomsky. And in this document, he said the following quote: "The general population doesn't know what's happening, and it doesn't even know that it doesn't know." So when I saw this quote, I realized how much I didn't know about the fields that I mentioned, especially the political one, because I didn't care about politics. I believe that politicians are responsible for politics. But now I realize that politics as such is created for us. We are the audience. We are the target group for the politics. All politics are made for us to make the consent and to get those in power, more powerful. So we ended up them controlling 80% of the world resources. 50% of the globe has only 2% of the world wealth. So this is not okay. This is something that we need to ask questions. I digged a lot, and maybe before I go further, let's go into, okay, Gabriele has a questions, and then we can go to breakout rooms. Gabriele.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to highlight is that, just to highlight what you just said, which is asking the right questions, the comfort, the beliefs. Someone say something like what you just said, 1% of the population owns, 70% of the resources, and 50% of the population only owns 1% of the things. In each one of our brains, when you say that sentence, there will have been a slew of justifications, like, oh yeah, but the systems favor centralizations, and there are scale economies, and this and that. So, and we need to be aware of that conditioning, because if we are not aware from that conditioning, what happens is that someone says something which is, it's absurd, right? It's absurd that we got 50% of the population which lives in poverty, but because of the justifications we'll be, trained to give and the answers, we will a priori already say, oh, but yeah, but scale economics, mass production, or wealth distribution. We can come up with loads of things. And it's very interesting to see, I see this in Italian political talk shows, which, I think are among the most brutal that you can follow, where when someone says something like, oh, let's tax the hyper rich, the super rich, or let's, make sure that this family that controls the highways gets taxed properly. You will see the host and all the people in the media coming at them, say like, oh, no, but you cannot do this because X, Y, Z. So understanding that we are coming from a place where we've been already pre-trained is the very first step, because otherwise we will discount any other things, and then there's going just to be a slow degradation of human life on Earth.
Thank you so much, Gabri, because yesterday, while I was watching the documentary on Al Jazeera, I realized one thing, that, of course, Al Jazeera, BBC, CNN, all those, New York Times, all those mainstream mass media, they are more or less the same. They are the mainstream, but they are no longer afraid to share such a document because it's extremely difficult to catch the place where you are conditioned, programmed. So they are absolutely fine with sharing the document. I realized this. I said, okay, because if you observe yourself from the outside, you are the observer, you will find moments where you say, oh no, they can't program me anymore. No, I'm awakened. Oh, I worked on my ego. No, I am quite educated. So yeah, this is the thing. So now let's go into. Thank you, Gabri. Let's.
There is a question for you, Hanan, from Peter. He wants to know the title of the documentary that you watched.
Yeah, I will share it. I will share it, the document, and if anyone wants to know about alternative media outlets, good ones, people who left the mainstream because they no longer were able to sustain this conditioning system, I can also share those. So I will share them at the end of the session.
When you were speaking about social conditioning, I kept thinking about, like the morning cereal for breakfast. Like, who thought that was a good idea to, for us to eat cereals loaded with sugar, ultra processed? Like, what the heck? That's the worst thing we can ever eat. Like, 2 eggs, simple eggs is much better than anything like that transformed. Yet we are sort of formatted and conditioned to thinking, oh, even like my own husband, he's like, that's good for children. I'm like, what the hell? That's terrible for anybody. Yana? Yeah, your hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to add here on the note of understanding how we are being manipulated. Beside Chomsky, what I would recommend everyone to see, it's a 4-part documentary, and it will be like you have read a couple of books after this. It's from Adam Curtis, and it's about Edward Bernays, if you have heard about this guy, because this is the guy who invented even the title public relations, and he was a nephew of Sigmund Freud, and he understood how unconsciousness or subconsciousness works with if you can manipulate our desires, people's desires, unconscious desires, you can manipulate what they want to buy or what they are going to believe politically. And so the documentary goes from how these ideas were exercised in how he made them useful to corporations first, because he was in business of selling. But then when politicians saw how this worked, because for example he made women smoke, I would take too much time here, so I'm just directing you to the documentary.
There is in the chat, please, so that everyone
Yes. Okay. It's called The Century of the Self. I will write it there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Yana.
Okay, let me.
And Alfredo, you have your hand up?
I want just to comment on Yana. Thank you very much, Yana, because I want to repeat that Edward Bernays, the father of propaganda, is the grandnephew of Sigmund Freud. It's not a coincidence. And the guys who created Netflix are the grandnephews of Edward Bernays. It's not a coincidence. So we need to question everything. I've been questioning everything for the last 2 years, and I feel like I'm in another world, but I know that I know what's happening. Not everything. The more I dig, the more I realize that I know nothing.
Must be exhausting, Hanan, because if you're questioning everything, then it's
yeah.
let's hear from Alfredo, please.
Yeah, okay, Alfredo.
Yes, I try to detach myself from thinking that this conditioning comes from just a handful of guys pulling the strings, because our conditioning comes from many places, and it comes mostly from our early years in the way we lived. How first of all our parents conditioned us, our environment, our context, our school, our culture. And most of all of this is a product of the collective thought in that sense. And I personally do not think there is right and wrong, just level of consciousness. And there is truly people stuck in a level of consciousness where the end justifies the means. And that doesn't mean they are just being evil. They are just being themselves in that sense. So it's how we go through life from my point of view without making judgment, but that doesn't mean we won't try to make things much better in that sense, because otherwise we are polarizing the world between right and wrong. And I guess, and there are several studies about this, our level of consciousness, and just a fraction of the world's population is very well aware of that we are all interconnected, for example. But more than 90% of global population don't think like that. And that conditioning comes from our collective mind in that sense. So it's truly challenging in that way, because we cannot force the change, because the change comes from outside. It's the context that forces a change within me in that sense. But we can start creating environments that invite people to start asking questions. But for me, the true challenge is how can we start making questions without making judgment in that sense? Otherwise, we will think we are better or worse or whatever. No, we are at the same level in that sense.
Yeah, this is a deep topic, Alfredo, and thank you for that. Yeah, we don't want to make judgments because even those people who are in power, or if there are people who are doing the harmful things, the people who are conditioned to do harmful things are also conditioned. Yes, it's their responsibility to start asking questions, but they are conditioned. So you said it exactly. We can't force the change. We can invite people, and we can work on ourselves. And I started the session by saying how my internal experience manifested into the external, because I started taking actions and my decisions changed, and this is affecting the whole world. Denisa?
Yeah, sorry guys, I came late and I cannot have my camera on, so hi. I just want to continue on something what Safa said about the disconnection. Because I think we are, as a society, we are very, very disconnected nowadays. We were born from nature as a humans, right? And we cannot have any relationship, like conscious relationship with the nature anymore. I don't know if you feel it, if you're going somewhere. It's very hard for us to connect again with the trees, with the water, with the soil as we are walking on, right? And even we are disconnected with our souls inside of ourselves, with our consciousness, with our humanity, as we can see everywhere around nowadays. If we will not be disconnected, we will not let happen what is happening now. So we have to find this connection again, and everything is going hand by hand, and then it would be easy for us to continue work not only on politics and everything what you want to work on, but we have to start from ourselves and our soul to find the connection with us and humanity and the ancestors, and nature as well.
Thank you, Denisa. That was beautiful. Lois.
Yeah, I was waiting on Louis. Like, Louis, this is your topic, man. Hear from
Sorry
you.
if I'm a bit slow. One of the first questions was, what's our purpose and what are we doing here? All this kind of stuff. I mean, what I said was, I felt that we're born as geniuses, as they say, and we're very pure and very amazing. I mean, we learn more in our first 5 years than we do in the rest of our life put together, really, when you think of language and everything. But we are distorted and we're influenced and we're programmed. So I basically suggested that my purpose was to actually find my way back to me. And a lot of the discussion that I'm hearing is all about the symptoms of people not actually achieving that. And I watched an interesting video earlier today, and I'm going to put a link to it. It was a Facebook reel, the source of all great news, which it was a security expert, actually, from ex-CIA or something. And he was talking about intuition and how underrated it is, and how many of our best decisions actually come from our intuition. And this is something I've been studying for quite a bit, as Hanan knows, and so far. And I've developed a little course around it, developing intuition, because that will take us back to who we truly are. It's not colored by the influences and things that are shaping us and causing us to argue every single point based on the symptoms that have resulted out of the dysfunction that we've led ourselves into through our programming. So we're never going to find solutions by trying to work it out to a large extent. It's got to be by reflection, by meditation, and by trusting ourselves and coming back to ourselves rather than listening to others. So, I mean, that's what I'm finding. And it's wonderful listening to everybody, but I kind of feel we're all a bit lost on this subject, what is the purpose of life and things. But I think there are answers in there, and we just don't look there because we actually are so governed by our left brain. We think logic is important and feelings are not. So we diminish probably the most important and humane part of ourselves by following other people's ideas of how the world should be and how we should be. So that's what I'm thinking.
Thank you, Lois. Thank you. I fully agree with you that intuition is maybe the solution even, because yes, we are not robots, we are not AI that should calculate everything and put an equation and get the solution. Yes, since I changed and awakened, I do all my decisions based on intuition, and the solution comes in few minutes. My body, everything speaks to me. So yes, absolutely, intuition is very important. It's also very important to know what's happening. So as I was saying, or Noam Chomsky said that people even don't know that they don't know. So it is important to know what's happening, because we reached to a moment where now we are talking about World War III, and it's horrific speaking about these topics. So that's why it is also important to know, because we are not only spiritual beings, but we are living in a physical body on this physical earth. Safa?
Yeah, I was wondering, because you said it's important to know. I'm wondering if we should already just act on what we know rather than seeking more information. Say, for example, I know Coke is bad for me. Why do I still buy it? I mean, it's expensive, it's a toxic drink, it's loaded with sugar, but I keep buying it. Do I need to get more information to act on what's going on, or rather just, like because I already have enough, but I'm not acting on upon it. You see what I mean?
Get rid
Yeah,
of
I
the
know what you
habit.
mean.
Get rid of the habit.
It's here, you know, Safa. Here, you know. But if we speak, let's say, for example, something that I'm observing, the topic of the migrants, it's a huge topic. Do people know what's behind? I don't know. So there are topics that are affecting our lives, affecting our emotions, affecting our decisions, but we might not know what's really behind. Sharon?
So there are a couple of things. The Kabbalah believes that we are from a one source, and then the soul is a spin-off of the source, and then part of the soul comes into our bodies, right? So we just have a part of our soul. And that the soul knows everything. The soul is all consciousness. And that when we are born, the soul, we forget everything that the soul knew, because it's almost like we would not appreciate, if we had everything, we would not appreciate. So we spend this lifetime learning to appreciate what it is that we have. And so we spend this lifetime learning to connect with the soul. So that's the whole thing, is that intuition, I believe, and no one has to believe what I believe, but that we are, the intuition, when we spend time in meditation or when we spend time in quietness, we are connecting to the soul. So I channel my sessions. I get information, or I get answers that I would never even know or have heard of, because I truly believe that I am just a vessel that's here, and then the soul works through me. But to go to the consciousness of what's happening in the world and the intention. You know, someone said something to me about food the other day, and they were like, you need to not eat this and this and this. And I thought, your fear actually affects you more than what it is that you're putting into your body. So the same thing with news or how we perceive what is going on. What if we here, we're all here our purpose is to be the light to help change the world. So you hear me talk about each person having their one light, and if each of us just up-levels ourselves a little bit with light, we have created more light than darkness. So when you look at energetic healing and you hear stories and you hear when people have collectively come together and they've set an intention for change, an intention for good, and an intention for healing, you are now creating the light and the healing as opposed to sitting in the fear. And I think that that's really important to kind of know that where we take what our intention is and the way that we think about it is important about what's going to happen. And it can go to the macrocosm or the microcosm. So when you think about it, even as the microcosm with, like, say, your child, and your child's doing something that is not desirable to you, when you put negative energy towards that, you are exacerbating that situation. You are not moving it towards the light. But if you're sitting in the healing and sending the love and the light to it, you are now creating more light and less negativity, if that makes sense. Anyway.
Thank you, Sharon. I fully agree that the spiritual part, the intuition, the soul, it's the most important thing. And it is the thing that I don't want to say that we lost it, but I would be very glad if we bring it back to our lives. But we can't stay, or at least in my opinion, we are here on physical experience on this planet. So there must be something physical where we can manifest our spiritual understanding throughout our lives. But yes, I fully agree. It should start from our intuition, from inside, from the soul, not from the brain and calculating and just collecting that data. We have never, ever had such amount of data as we have today, and we are still lost. So it's not the solution to gather data, but to know about the things that we need for our lives today, here and now. Gabri.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question, everybody, to get some opinions, right? Because, I've always been living with this conflict, right? Massive conflict between what is rational, what makes sense, and what works, and what is, what we like, is desirable, or we want, right? So you could take, I don't know, agriculture. You can take, monoculture, just have a monoculture of apple trees. And that's very effective from an economical point of view, but it's not very nice to look at, from a biological point of view. Or you look at, hyper specialization of work, or you look at technical proficiency, And I think we have all got this big dilemma as humans that, on one hand, you can have a system that is hyper specialized, very good from a technical point of view, and is very effective. Any kind of military system, be it the Chinese Liberation Army or the US Army or the Nazis or the Roman Empire, they had acquired this kind of technical proficiency. But then when you exacerbate technical proficiency, you bring distraction, because it's like logos out of control. At the same time, the people that are more balanced and more normal, they don't have the technical proficiency or that level of military organization. So how can people who are doing the right things, so they're balanced, but they are less powerful, can influence and tell someone who has become more powerful because they are more obsessive, more crazy, more, obsessive compulsive disorder kind of people, say, oh, look, you're doing something wrong. The other person will not listen, because they will say, well, I can drop a nuke, a V2 missile, or, a biological weapon. So what are your thoughts about this? Because that's, I think, the dilemma. How can someone that is correct because it's balanced open the eyes of someone who is much more powerful because he's insane or OCD or whatever?
Anyone wants to answer that?
Yes, I like to comment on that. Previously, from my point of view, it's totally legitimate for Hannah, for example, to ask questions and to look further and deeper. She's acting from her level of consciousness. But I also believe that, as Luis was saying, that most of the answers are within ourselves, with our intuition. But I also believe that Safa is also right when she says, I do not need that much information. Each one of us is unique, and each one of us is acting from our level of consciousness. So it's totally legitimate, the one who doesn't want to know more, who wants to be ignorant, or the other ones who wants to just go further, go deeper, have more answers. So in that sense, Gabriel, for me, there is no better or worse, right or wrong. There just is. And each one of us will make our own judgments according to our level of consciousness. In that sense, because if I think you are right and I am wrong, I'm just starting to make differences. I'm judging. In that sense, so the Romans at their time, they were doing it at their level of consciousness. And so that's happening today at the individual and collective level. So once we become aware, we become, as Sharon was saying, much more responsible of ourselves, connected with our own intuition. But an intuition doesn't necessarily mean that it's totally open, it's totally well aware. No. Some people have less connection with their inner self. Other has much more. But that doesn't mean that the ones who have much more are better in that sense. They just are. So once we start looking at that, we become less at ease with ourselves and with the world. And that doesn't mean that we are not going to be proactive in terms of acting to make this world better.
Thank you, Alfredo. Anyone else would like to share?
I think we have another breakout room, Hanan. So, and then we have less than 25 minutes to go. So,
Okay. Before we go to the breakout room, I would like to share something with you, and we can reflect on it. So basically, what I observe, I observe is that most of our life, we are in the process of being consumers who are purchasing products and services. And we are in the process of being the employees or business partners or whatever who produce, sell, and distribute. And we have vast fields of industries. And those industries have effects. So we can mention the fast fashion, the food industry, mining, pharmaceutical, mass media, and entertainment, weaponry. And the effects are vast on resources exploitation, modern slavery, child labor, animals, our health, the physical health and mental health, and of course, death and destruction. I'm now here mentioning the bad side of the industries. Of course, we have beautiful things also happening. But how much is this linked to the 50% of the world population who own only 22% of the wealth? Are we a part of what's happening of channeling the wealth from us, even us, to those in power? For example, when I go to the shop and I have the nice intention, connected to my intuition, and I saw something beautiful, a t-shirt, and I bought it. And I didn't ask about the information. If there is a child who worked on it, if the chemicals that were used to color it will be harmful for me and for the lady who did it. I don't know if you heard about the factory in Bangladesh, maybe 10 years ago, that fall on the heads of 1,000 plus moms who gained less than $2 per day. Big corporations with fancy brands were there, and they denied that they were having their products produced there. They refused to pay compensation. So with this, I would like to go to breakout rooms, and if we can also discuss these things. Whatever you want. I didn't want to put questions. I want to reflect on whatever you find that is triggering, that you don't agree with. Just open up and let your intuition, your emotions talk. And again, Safa, 2 or 3 minutes per person so that they can explore as they need.
all right. So we will have 6 minutes. So you guys have 2 minutes each. And then please make sure to share your contribution when you get back in the main room. All right. So you get an invite and you join your room. Welcome back, everyone. Come back, everyone. Oh, Luther, we can see you now. Good. All right, so hand it over to you, Hanan.
Yeah, so how did it go? Anyone wants to share?
Very good. I found who is going to help me with arranging the furnitures and making the house livable. apparently we got a specialist here, so that's the highlight of the session. a very practical thing.
But we asked the question, and unfortunately, we were taken away from our environment before we could complete answer the question. Because what Kathy does is she makes living areas humane and beautiful and exciting and healthy. And I just asked her the question, surely it's similar to our natural, the humane environment. It's a similar situation in terms of how sometimes she's got a niche. She can just see a room and see what will improve it greatly. And there's people around that can see how they can help others in terms of their environment. And we were just trying to make the connection between, in terms of what is the holistic view, in terms of, and who can help you where, when.
Yeah, I would like to add something. Let's try to take this to the. I want to start using a rational point of view. In change management, the tipping point for a change to take place means that around 18 or 20% of the population have taken that level of consciousness. Otherwise, it will take much longer. And that goes using the normal statistic distribution curve. And just a few years ago, coffee was bad. We now today know that it's not that bad. And avocados were bad for our cholesterol. Now it results they are not bad.
Yeah.
So the world is constantly changing. Some of us become aware earlier, and others do not, and others consciously decide to do nothing. So real change, the tipping point will become when this mass of around 18 to 20% of the population takes charge, and that makes the change grow exponentially. So I don't look at this like being good or bad. That's just the way it is. And the world is changing in that sense. So that doesn't mean that not being judgmental, we are not going to be active or proactive if in terms of taking action for some things to change. And that's how I see it. I see the world, the context is pressure. I work in 3 big multinationals, big, very big. They all 3 were well aware of the environment, of taking care of nature and so on. I personally discontinued products after realizing worldwide that some ingredients were being harmful. And some companies do, but others don't. They have not reached that level of consciousness. So sooner or later, it will start to come around. But that doesn't mean that what we did 60 years ago were ill-intentioned in that sense. In most of these cases, we did not know. And also, most of it is being generated by the collective level of consciousness.
Okay, thank you, Alfredo. Maybe I just want to emphasize that I'm not talking about actions that we want to impose on others.
Mm-hmm.
The session is about me, and I am sharing with you my experience, and what my intention is to get it as it is about you. So I'm not trying to impose anything.
No, I get it.
No, I just want to explain this, because sometimes we feel that it is about we want to change by force the whole world and go. No, it's about me, how I see the world, and how my view of the world led me to particular decisions and actions or refraining for doing things. So this is the main thing. Maybe I didn't emphasize this at the beginning. Safa, but only shortly because I want to share the rest of the content.
Yeah, I just want to say to Alfredo, I'm currently reading the memoir of Pablo Neruda, and I feel like he was such like a militant and activist is in his own way. So maybe there is a militant and activist in us that we can
Yes.
just, awaken.
Yeah, that's what I believe. We need to take action in that sense.
Sorry, I started sharing in the middle of your conversation.
That's great. I'm done.
The button. Okay, I would like to share this video for 1.5 minutes. One moment.
The world, and it gives me enormous. I do look at what's going on in this country, in the world, and it gives me enormous anxiety. Enormous anxiety. And I have kids, but we also live in this unbelievable onslaught of information. We see genocide being live streamed to us. We see American citizens being killed by paramilitary people in our own streets for standing in solidarity with their neighbors. We're seeing Epstein's abuses titrated into us on a daily basis, and it is such a conundrum because we know that there's a value. We know that it's good in some ways to know what is actually happening, to know what's happening in Gaza, to know what's happening in Ukraine and Sudan and Minneapolis. But at the same time, it is very difficult to know what we as an individual person can do about all of that while moving through our day. And I think that for me, the only antidote to the anxiety has been action, some kind of action. And I think that.
So I felt that this video is saying a lot. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Yeah. Okay. And if I had to give you an answer about the compass that we can follow, it was already said here. It is the oneness, which is going through our soul, right? That we are all one. Sharon described it in her ways. I would share how it is said in the Quran that God gave a spark of his soul in every human being, which shows that we are all one and that we are extremely intelligent, as Lois said. This is intelligence. The soul is intelligence. So since we are on the physical world, in a physical body, how can we manifest this oneness? In my opinion, it's via community, that we are at the end of the day one community. All people on this planet are one community. And our brothers and sisters in Africa, they have a beautiful wisdom. It's called Ubuntu. Ubuntu means I see you and I am because we are. So this is what I wanted to share with you. For anyone who wants to know, who wants to ask the right questions, who wants to make a change, I created a project and I'm starting it at the end of this month, where we can gather every month and discuss these things. The aim is to heal together, because some of our beliefs are trauma, like when we believe that we can't make a change I can see it as a trauma, or we have things that are preventing us from moving forward. So in this community that I call Ubuntu Circle, we can heal together, we can grow together, and we can make change together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hanan, for today's session. Make sure, Hanan, to put down your links because I don't think you have. Everyone, feel free to save the chat because a few links have been shared if you want to learn more about the documentaries, the books that were mentioned, Luther video, and so on. These are all in the chat. And Hanan, how can we keep in touch with you? I think you have your website, is that correct?
Yes, I will add in my website. I added my LinkedIn, and I'm not sure if I will be capable to put the links that Peter requested. I'll try.
Okay, and your Ubuntu group circle, maybe you want to put it in there as well.
My Ubuntu circle is via ExpertEase app. So
yeah, just if you can find the link and put it in there. So for those who are not used to coming every Wednesday, we have this session every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Paris time. That's 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 Pacific time. We gather every week to discuss different topics and themes, and every week we have a new facilitator. Sometimes it's philosophical, reflective, like today's session. Sometimes it's more practical and more professional and business geared sorts of sessions. If you feel like you want to facilitate one of the sessions in the future, definitely reach out to me. I'd love to coordinate with you. And yeah, any last questions for Hanan or for everyone, or last contributions before we leave?
Yeah, it was a very great session, Hanan. I think lots of insightful questions, and it was nice to see that in this group there are lots of very thoughtful people. Yeah, that's a very nice group.
Thank you, guys.
In certain countries, you might serve some jail time.
Sorry, Luther, can you repeat?
I say freedom of thought and
Yes.
freedom of expression is not frowned upon in certain countries.
Yes.
So make sure that you don't live in those countries because it could put your health at risk.
I'm already doing it.
Good.
Yeah.
Then it's not a good strategy to stay there. Then you must find elsewhere. Otherwise, you will not live the life you are meant to live.
What's your secret, Luther, for living the life that you're meant to live?
Being triumphant. Having freedom of movement and freedom of choice. That's for me the ultimate.
Luther, where do you live?
Langebaan in South Africa.
Langebaan. I was born in Klerksdorp.
So, in terms of, I'm in part, if I think Langebaan has the gates to heaven, so it's lovely.
Langebaan's amazing.
We lost Carr earlier, but he's in South Africa as well. I'm not sure
Where is he in South Africa?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. All right. Well, Hanan, again, thank you so much for today's session. See you next week all. Last word, Hanan?
Yeah, I want to say thank you. You all are very brave because I know that this topic is triggering. You were brave and it's emotional. So thank you so much for staying here, for being contributive, for reflecting. And and I'm looking forward to meeting with you next week with someone else.
Wonderful.
And move to a safer place.
Publish your info of Ubuntu.
Sorry?
Publish your info of Ubuntu.
Yeah, I put it. It's on ExpertEase. I just put it in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ubuntu is an African concept.
It is an African concept.
Yes.
I said that it is from our brothers and sisters from Africa.
Yes.
It's a beautiful one. I will put it
Great.
again.
Thank you again so much, Hanan. Thank you everyone for participating, staying till the end. See you next Wednesday. Keep in touch. Bye.